You're in traffic. Someone cuts across you. You're annoyed for about 4 seconds. Then you move on because somewhere in the background of your brain, you know the rules exist. Speed cameras, insurance, laws that protect you from them, and them from you. You've never had to figure out what happens when someone wrongs you and there is no institution to call. You've never had to. For 290,000 years, there were no laws, no courts, no police, no system, just 25 people and the problem of what to do when one of them stopped being trustworthy. So, what did they do? Because something kept humans cooperative for 290,000 years before anyone wrote a rule down, and whatever it was, it worked. Here's what you have to understand about the situation. Your entire world is about 25 people. That's it. You were born knowing all of them. You will die knowing all of them. There is no moving to a new city. There is no starting over somewhere else. Everything in camp is shared. When a hunter brings home a kill, the meat goes to the group. The hunter often gets one of the worst cuts. Anthropologist Frank Marlowe documented this among the Hadza of Tanzania. Hoarding was essentially impossible because everyone was watching. And here's the real problem. If someone wrongs you, you still have to sleep next to them tonight. You still need them on the hunt tomorrow. A fight that injures one person injures the group's ability to survive. Violence is too expensive. Leaving is almost never an option. The territory beyond your group's range is either empty, which means genuinely dangerous, or claimed by another group, which means potentially hostile. So you have no law, no authority, no exit, and no choice but to solve this inside the group that is already falling apart. On paper, this should not work. A species with no enforcement mechanism, no neutral arbitrator, and no written rules should not be able to stay cooperative for 290,000 years. But we did. And the way we did it is more elegant and more brutal than anything we built later. The first tool wasn't a rule. It wasn't a punishment. It was a conversation. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent decades with the Jew/Huansi people of the Kalahari, one of the most studied remaining hunter-gatherer populations on Earth. In 2014, she published her findings in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. What she found, 81% of all nighttime conversation around the fire was stories, social bonding, and information about other people. Who helped someone who was struggling? Who took more than their share? Who told a lie last week? This was not gossip in the trivial sense. This was the group's legal record. It was updated every night, by everyone, about everyone. And in a camp of 25 people, there is no such thing as a private transgression. Anthropologist Richard Lee saw this happen in real time. He'd been living with the Kung for years. One Christmas, he bought the biggest, fattest ox he could find, a genuinely impressive animal, and brought it to camp as a gift. The group immediately started mocking it, said it was scrawny, said the meat would be terrible, said he'd wasted everyone's time. Lee was baffled. He'd checked the animal carefully. It was excellent, so he finally asked an elder what was going on. The elder explained, when a hunter brings home a big kill, the camp doesn't celebrate. They mock it. The bigger the contribution, the harder they cut it down, because a man who thinks he's done something great starts thinking he's better than everyone else. And that is the thing that breaks a group faster than anything. The mockery wasn't cruelty, it was maintenance. The first law wasn't written down, it was whispered, and everyone heard it. Anthropologist Christopher Boehm at USC studied social order across dozens of documented hunter-gatherer societies. He found the same pattern everywhere. Every stable group practiced what he calls reverse dominance hierarchy. The moment any individual started accumulating disproportionate status, acting as though their hunting success made them superior, taking more than their share, trying to dominate decisions, the group turned on them. Not with violence, not with a formal process, with mockery, sustained, collective, relentless. Across Kalahari Bushmen, Amazonian groups, Arctic hunter-gatherers, the same pattern. A man who begins to act superior becomes the subject of jokes. His kills are described as small. His contributions are underplayed. His pretensions become the material for stories told around other fires. This continues sometimes for weeks until the behavior adjusts. It almost always does. Because a person can tolerate being disliked. But being laughed at by everyone you depend on to survive is almost unbearable. Ridicule was not cruelty. It was the most efficient enforcement mechanism a small group ever built. The final sanction was exclusion. And it happened in stages so gradual you might not notice until it was complete. First, ignored in conversation, then excluded from shared meals, then physically avoided. Then the group moved camp and didn't say where they were going. Unlike modern ostracism, which is painful but survivable, ancient ostracism was often literally fatal. A single person cannot hunt large game, cannot maintain a fire through winter alone, cannot survive most encounters with the predators that were everywhere. Neuroscientist Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA ran fMRI studies on social exclusion. What she found: being left out activates the exact same brain regions as physical pain. The dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the same signal. The pain of being excluded is not a metaphor. It is the same neural alarm as a wound. Your brain learned to treat social exclusion as a survival threat because for 290,000 years, it was one. The sentence was never spoken out loud. It was enacted in the small daily choices of 25 people who sat next to whom, who passed food to whom, who answered when you spoke. In a world with no writing, reputation was permanent, in a way we've mostly lost. A social transgression wasn't filed somewhere. It was woven into the group's oral history, carried in stories told around fires, passed between camps during visits, remembered by people who had never witnessed the original act. Polly Wiesner's fieldwork documents the Kung camps exchanging detailed social information with neighboring camps during visits. Who had been generous? Who had been difficult? Who had broken a promise? A person who stole from their group could not simply walk to the next camp and start fresh. The story of what they had done was already there. The social network was the criminal record, and it had no statute of limitations. Reputation was the only record that mattered, and it never expired. Here's what nobody tells you about why laws were invented. It wasn't because humans became more civilized. It wasn't because we developed a more sophisticated sense of justice. It was because the ancient system stopped being possible. Gossip, mockery, ostracism, shared memory, all of it requires one thing: that the wrongdoer and the wronged person share a community of mutual observers. People who know both of them, who remember, who talk, who can withdraw. In a group of 25, that is everyone. In a city of 10,000, that is no one. The agricultural revolution around 10,000 years ago changed group sizes from dozens to hundreds, then thousands. And in that scale, you can steal from a stranger and be gone before anyone knows your name. Laws, courts, judges, prisons. These are not an improvement on the ancient system. They are an emergency substitute for a social technology that only worked at a specific scale. We didn't upgrade it, we lost it. And what we built to replace it is the system everyone complains about. Slow, impersonal, expensive, often wrong. The ancient system was none of those things. It was just too small to survive what we became. You're back in traffic. Same person, same cut, same flash of annoyance, but now you know what's actually happening. The speed cameras, the insurance, the consumer helpline, all of it exists because the group got too large for the thing that actually worked to keep working. Every office has a person everyone talks about but no one confronts. Every family has the unspoken rules that govern the dinner table. Every group chat has the dynamic that never gets named out loud. That is the ancient system. Still running, still working, in every space small enough for everyone to know everyone. The gossip, the mockery, the quiet withdrawal of warmth. You have been enforcing and being enforced on your whole life by a legal system 290,000 years old. You just didn't know that's what it was. For most of human history, the worst punishment wasn't prison. It wasn't exile. It was becoming someone people stopped talking about, and in a group of 25, that was a death sentence you gave yourself.